Week 1 of college football, Friday night, tie game 2020, Georgia Tech, Colorado. Haynes King fakes the toss and then goes up the gut of the defense. Haynes King. Could that be the potential game-winning touchdown? Well, Caden Salter, 3 seconds to go, has a chance for a Hail Mary. Airs it out, downfield, and the Yellow Jackets bat it down. Georgia Tech gets the victory, 27-20, in a game that had some exciting moments, but also some moments that were a little bit hard to watch, as Caden Salter's debut at Colorado, 17-28, 159 yards. Remember, he's taken over Shedeur Sanders. Haynes King, 143 yards in the air, 156 rushing yards, 3 rushing TDs. This is what he's known for. And also Jamal Haynes, 16 for 65 rushing yards. And with that, we bring in CBS Sports college football analyst and writer Tom Fornelli. And Tom, the way this game started, everybody's thinking, did we make a mistake with Georgia Tech? Like 3 turnovers in 8 minutes? But then the Yellow Jackets, they settled down. Colorado was not able to take advantage. What were your biggest takeaways from this game, man?
Hey, you mentioned the start there. What's hilarious is last year on the entire season, Georgia Tech turned the ball over 8 times. They turned the ball over on their first 3 possessions of the season in this game in Boulder. And what's wilder is after doing that, they were only down 7-0 afterwards. So you felt like they'd really gotten, lucky in that they were able to survive such a horrible start on the road. But I think the primary takeaway that I have in this spot on the Georgia Tech side of the ball, at least, is Haynes King, I wrote about it in the offseason, is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in college football. And I thought that even with the rough start, he had the 1 fumble that turned into the Colorado touchdown, had an interception, but he overcame it. He had a big rushing evening, as he's typically doing, takes a lot of hits on quarterback draws, made enough throws to keep the offense moving. And we saw in the highlights there, scored the game-winning touchdown late in the game to put the Yellow Jackets ahead for good. But it was not, if I'm Georgia Tech coach Brent Key, I'm going in the locker room right now like, listen, I'm happy we won this game, but boys, we got a whole lot to work on here.
Yeah, that film review is definitely going to be interesting for them to get the win, but a lot to clean up. Now, on Colorado's side, you talked about how they weren't really able to capitalize on those 3 turnovers by the Yellow Jackets. Caden Salter making his Colorado debut. What did you make of his performance? Because I think there were spots where he looked really good, but then other areas where you just weren't sure what the progression was or what his thought was in making those decisions.
Yeah, before the game started, they retired the numbers of Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders at Folsom Field. And maybe you were kind of scratching your head a little bit about Shedeur Sanders having his number retired, considering the career he had was very good, but it wasn't typically your number retired kind of career. And then you watched Caden Salter and you kind of realized, okay, yeah, no, Shedeur Sanders was pretty important to this team the last few years, because while you can argue about his draft position all you want, but the fact is Shedeur in that offense with Travis Hunter put together a lot of explosive plays. He was very accurate as a passer. As you can see there with Caden Salter's numbers, 17-28, 159 yards. He missed some easy throws. There was a wide open receiver he missed on a 3rd and goal that ended up costing Colorado a touchdown. It just was not an even performance by Salter, and it just really made you appreciate what Shedeur was able to bring to this offense. Although Salter did bring more of a rushing element with his legs, it's just he's not the package Sanders was, and it's going to make you wonder, like, you lose Hunter, you lose Sanders. Obviously, those are 2 really good players for Colorado to have to replace, but you would hope that Salter, who came in from Liberty and had a really good season with the Flames 2 years ago, you were hoping for more from him tonight, and you were also kind of wondering at times, like, why maybe Juju Lewis, the freshman phenom that they have as the backup, why didn't he see some snaps with the way Salter was playing?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Like, at least give him a shot, right? Doesn't work, you can bring back Caden Salter. But as a whole, Tom, when you think about Colorado, obviously losing Shedeur and Travis, Dion, he's never been in this position before in his college coaching career without Shedeur as his starting QB. What's your confidence level that they're going to figure this out? That doesn't mean they're going to win the Big 12, but what's your confidence level that they can make some steam in this conference?
Well, the good news for them is that since this isn't a conference game, they're still very much in the hunt for a college football playoff berth. And if you look around at the Big 12 this weekend and so far this year, you could still see a path for them to have a successful season in conference play. And to have a poor performance in week one probably shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, because it's not just who they lost. It's the fact that the way Dion has built this roster and had to build it this year through the transfer portal, there's a lot of new players on this team who have never played in a game together before. So to see them kind of struggle to gel early should not come as a surprise. As the season goes on, the hope would be, if you're a Buffalo fan, that they start to figure things out. They play a little better, a little cleaner, figure it out, and get into conference play to where there is still plenty of wiggle room for them to make some noise.
All right, now when we look at big picture here on Friday night, Tom, who is your biggest winner from Friday night? Tarleton State?
It's a nice win for Tarleton State. I will give them that. But no, my biggest winner, we're going to go to another game, but maybe many people probably weren't paying too much attention to, but I was watching and I was taking some high notes from it. Michigan State had a pretty easy time with Western Michigan. Granted, it's Western Michigan, but the biggest takeaway for me in this game was that offensive line was moving people out of the way. And when Jonathan Smith came from Oregon State last year, the biggest problem I thought Michigan State had, aside from some turnover problems at quarterback, was the lack of a running game, the lack of physicality. They just did not have it on their offensive line. Tonight, they looked a lot like the Oregon State offensive line from 2023 that helped get Jonathan Smith the Michigan State job in the first place. That, to me, is the foundation of what the Spartans want to do. So if I'm a Michigan State fan, I'm not getting too excited because, again, it's only Western Michigan. But if you are looking for positive signs moving forward, to me, that was a huge one for Sparty.
Right, and they did what they were supposed to do in this game. Now, when we talk about biggest loser, who do you have your eye on?
I got to look at the Big 12 right now. Colorado's lost to Georgia Tech. Baylor's on the verge of losing to Auburn. If you are the Big 12 and you had any hopes of getting one at-large berth into the college football playoff at the end of the year, along with your conference champion, these are the games you need to win. These are the resume opportunities you had. You had an SEC opponent coming to your building in Auburn. You had an ACC opponent coming to your building in Georgia Tech, and you dropped the ball on both of them, and that is going to impact you when it comes to comparing at-large resumes at the end of the year. So it's looking like we're not even finished with week one, and the Big 12 is a one-bid league.
Yeah, definitely not the way the Big 12 envisioned starting the year. But it is only week one, so there's a lot of time left to regroup and get better. Now, Saturday and this week, right, Monday, we've got some great action, Tom. You got Texas, Ohio State. Hopefully that showdown between Arch Manning, right, and Julian Sand, the defending champs, lives up to the hype. Alabama against Florida State, LSU and Clemson, a top 10 affair. How about Notre Dame and Miami? And then Bill Belichick making his college coaching debut as a head coach against TCU, leading the Tar Heels. So plenty of storylines here, Tom. But I got to ask you, what's one surprise that fans should be on the lookout for that might catch them off guard?
Yeah, you see LSU and Clemson on there. It's a top 10 matchup. Number 4 Clemson versus number 9 LSU. Do not be surprised if these teams look ugly in that opener on Saturday night. Clemson, we know in the last few years, has really struggled offensively going up against SEC teams. Think back to last year's opener against Georgia, in which they were pasted 34-3, or later in the season against South Carolina, where they really struggled to move the ball in a loss. And then there's LSU, which to me, I think is a team with a very high ceiling as a total in 2025. They have Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. They have excellent receivers, good running backs, but what they don't have is 4 of the 5 guys who started on their offensive line last season. And if I'm breaking in 4 new starters on my offensive line, Clemson is probably at the top of the list of the last teams I want to see in my first game, because that is one of the strongest defensive lines in the country. So I just have a feeling that game could be pretty ugly. It could kind of look like Georgia Tech and Colorado did in the first half tonight.
Oh, please no. Please no. We don't want to see that. But, hey, look, that's what happens sometimes, right? You're not going to get the prettiest, the sexiest type of play in week one, but you are going to get entertaining action. And there are a lot of ranked-on-ranked games in week one, Tom. So any upsets you see potentially happening?
No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some small underdogs win games, like if Miami takes down Notre Dame on Sunday night. But I think the big theme to keep an eye on this weekend is there's not going to be the shocking upset. I know earlier tonight we saw Tarleton State take down Army, but the fact is, if you look at the spread of that game, not as big of an upset as you might think from an FCS team over an FBS team. And I think it's just a reflection of the fact that as we enter 2025 in this NIL and transfer portal era, the gap between the haves and the have-nots is widening each and every year. And I think that this year, if you're looking for the old Appalachian State to take down Michigan in the first week of the season that you sometimes see, I'm not optimistic you're going to see anything close to that. I think any upset's going to be in that 3 to 7 point underdog variety. Nothing bigger than that.
Okay, all right. We'll see if you're correct. I mean, you are correct on a lot of things, so wouldn't be surprised if that comes true on Saturday and beyond. Tom Fornelli, always appreciate the insight, man.
Thank you.
And remember, we are in Tallahassee. Emily Proud, B. Mack, Damian Harris, and Denny Cannell getting you set for Alabama against Florida State Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on CBS Sports HQ. It is going to be electric, to say the least.